On February 15, 2020, the body of Amie Harwick was found lying on the ground, dead, beneath the balcony of her third-floor window. A sex therapist by day and a go-go dancer by night. What had culminated in the death of this intelligent and beautiful woman, supposedly in the prime of her life? Did she jump? Or was she murdered? Join us on this episode of Sofa, Mocha, and Mystery as we delve deeper into the story of Amie Harwick. We post weekly videos of true crimes and cults. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below. Amie was a brilliant, driven, and empathetic individual. Everyone who had the privilege of meeting her wanted to be her friend. She was often described as a rarity in Hollywood, known for her authenticity, intelligence, and genuine caring nature. Despite her sunny exterior, Amie also had a penchant for the dark and macabre. From taxidermy to death and true crime, she once bought murder victim Sharon Tate's bra, and in a way, she found a certain comfort in darkness. Her friends often remarked that, like everyone, she had her demons to battle. Amie was the adopted child of two loving parents, yet she openly admitted to struggling with abandonment issues that made her particularly vulnerable to abusive relationships. Amie had many notable relationships over the course of her life. Notably, she dated Dave Navarro, the guitarist from Red Hot Chili Peppers, as well as Drew Carey. Amie had found herself a place in the Hollywood scene, particularly in the goth subculture, where she regularly made appearances at go-go dancing venues, concerts, and burlesque clubs. She was renowned for her vintage-inspired fashion sense and was known for dating metal musicians, including a period when she dated Marilyn Manson. A friend aptly described her as a therapist by day and a go-go dancer by night. One evening, she might be captivating audiences with a fire-breathing performance at the Playboy Mansion, and the next day, she would be lecturing at Pepperdine University. In addition to her engagement to Drew Carey, Amie's romantic journey was marked by the presence of Gareth Pursehouse, adding complexity and variety to her life. Amie first met Gareth at a party in 2010, where they were introduced by Amie's friend, Grace Stanley. Gareth worked as a photographer in the adult entertainment industry and held a day job as a software engineer. Standing at an imposing 6'4" with a well-built physique and chiseled features, Gareth might have seemed like one of the countless aspiring actors, models, or comedians in Hollywood. Interestingly, Gareth had aspirations of becoming a comedian, setting him apart from Amie's usual circle. Described by friends as energetic, friendly, and always amped up, Gareth had a playful and goofy side that endeared him to some. He often shared his thoughts on Twitter, discussing his love for the classic television show Star Trek, even joking about naming his future kids after characters from the series. On Facebook, he posted random videos of himself, showcasing his eccentricity. However, not everyone was enamored by Gareth's energetic and goofy ways. One friend of Amie's went as far as to say that he spooked her, likening him to Ted Bundy due to his blandly good looks and empty eyes. She noted that Gareth had a tendency to mirror others, echoing their likes and preferences, which raised concerns about his authenticity. Amie's friends noticed that Gareth was overly solicitous of her, seemingly obsessed with her every move. They observed that she spent less time with them, unaware that Gareth's father, Paul, had recently faced 2 restraining orders filed against him by his ex-fiancée, Deborah Vale. Vale, a 69-year-old real estate broker, claimed that Paul had begun harassing her relentlessly after their relationship ended, displaying obsessive and unstable behavior. Amie's friends speculated that her vulnerability, stemming from abandonment issues, made Gareth's excessive attention seem flattering to her. They grew increasingly worried about the situation. In early 2011, Amie began to complain about Gareth, and she eventually ended their relationship. A mutual friend, Rudy Torres, recalls that Gareth did not take the breakup well, resorting to inappropriate behavior. Despite being told to move on, He continued to send Amie messages, displaying an unhealthy attachment to her. Things escalated when Amie confessed to her friends that she had been physically and emotionally abused by Gareth for months. She filed a restraining order in 2011, describing incidents where Gareth had choked, suffocated, pushed, kicked, dropped her on the ground, restrained her, slammed her head into the ground, and punched her with a closed fist. In her statement, she mentioned that he claimed he lashed out due to her making him angry, but he refused to seek help while in the relationship. Shockingly, the restraining order was denied due to a lack of evidence, leaving Amie fearing what Gareth might do next. A year after their split, Gareth continued to harass Amie, repeatedly breaking into her apartment. He damaged her property, leaving shattered picture frames and even left roses on her front door. On one night, he stood outside her door for hours, playing music. Amie filed for another restraining order, alleging that he had physically assaulted her by pulling her out of a car, giving her a bloody nose, and leaving her on the freeway. This time, a superior court judge barred him from having any contact with her for 5 years. As Amie worked hard to recover from the trauma of their short-lived relationship, she pursued her education and became a licensed marriage and family therapist. She built a vibrant and active social life, slowly putting Gareth behind her. Unfortunately, Gareth never forgot about her, setting the stage for a tragic turn of events in their lives. As the years passed, the relentless torment continued for Amie, and while she strongly believed it was Gareth, she couldn't prove it. Her home was repeatedly burgled, photo albums were stolen, copies of her Maxim magazine photo spread and her laptop were taken, and derogatory anonymous messages were posted online and sent to her friends. These malicious actions were sabotaging her friendships, career, and reputation. Amie occasionally confided in her friends about her fears of a persistent stalker, even though some casual acquaintances could tell that there was a specific individual who had Amie deeply afraid. Nevertheless, Amie tried to focus on her burgeoning career. She was professionally flourishing, offering therapy for people with marginalized sexual identities, such as sex workers or those in the kink communities. Her mission was to provide a judgment-free space for individuals who often struggled to find mental health treatment that catered to their unique needs. In the summer of 2017, at a Holly party, Amie crossed paths with Drew Carey, the famous comedian and host of The Price is Right. The pair hit it off instantly and had their first date at Disneyland. What followed was a whirlwind romance. Within months, they were engaged, and Carey chose Valentine's Day to make their engagement public on his show. However, their relationship had its downsides, causing slow-growing friction between them. Amie confided in friends about their different communication styles, and she had concerns about Carey's fame. She worried that every time there was news about their relationship in the press or celebrity events, it would trigger Gareth to carry out his sinister actions. True to her fears, whenever there was a celebrity event, anonymous posts criticizing her and her practice would appear on websites reviewing doctors. Amie feared that her career would be ruined by this relentless harassment. In November 2018, the couple decided to part ways, marking the first time Amie's friends saw her truly devastated by a breakup. However, by early 2020, she was beginning to bounce back. On the evening of January 17, 2020, Amie and her friend Hernan Chavez arrived in a limousine outside the annual XB Awards, an adult industry gala and awards event. At this year's XB Awards, hosted by the renowned adult film star Stormy Daniels, Amie found herself scheduled to appear as a panelist and representative of Pineapple Support, an organization dedicated to assisting sex industry workers with their mental health challenges. Hernan, her friend, accompanied her on the red carpet. While he went to get drinks, Amie engaged in a conversation with Aspen Jamison, an adult film star. As they patiently awaited their turn on the red carpet, Amie was startled by a familiar voice. It was Gareth Pursehouse, the man she had come to dread. Although she hadn't seen him for 8 years, he was present that night as a photographer, ending a 5-year hiatus from public life. Gareth had taken on a job as a lead architect after his separation from Amie, distancing himself from the scene. His old friend Eleanor Evans was among the first to notice him and greeted him warmly with a hug. However, Gareth remained elusive when questioned about his whereabouts during his absence. Gareth's greeting to Amie was anything but warm. In fact, he appeared visibly agitated and trembling, as reported by Aspen Jamieson. Suddenly, he erupted into shouting, causing alarm among those present. Concerned for Amie's well-being, Aspen called her Nondo, who later described Gareth's behavior toward Amie as verbally abusive and deeply distressed. Amie and Gareth eventually retreated to a bench away from the red carpet, where Gareth continued his tirade for 45 minutes. Her friends watched as Amie worked tirelessly to de-escalate the situation. Meanwhile, other photographers began to notice something amiss with Gareth. His choice of attire, a red shirt, was unusual for a photographer at such an event, and his erratic movement along the red carpet, instead of staying in one place, irritated his colleagues. This raised questions about whether he had known Amie would be on the panel that night and accepted the job for that reason. Later in the evening, Gareth approached Amie's table and requested another conversation. She obliged, taking him aside to listen, but this time, his emotions spiraled out of control, leaving him hysterical. To Amie's friend Robert Koshland, it was evident that Gareth was unhinged, and at one point, he collapsed to the ground, curling up in the fetal position and crying out in distress. After their encounter, Amie and her Nondo discussed the incident in detail. Amie was deeply unsettled by the experience. She also revealed something chilling. Gareth had been reciting text messages she had sent him verbatim, messages that were 8 years old. As a therapist himself, her Nondo assisted Amie in developing a safety plan to protect herself. They explored options such as acquiring a taser or a firearm, purchasing pepper spray, and changing the locks on her doors. Despite these precautions, Amie was hesitant to involve the police, especially given that her previous restraining order had expired 2 years earlier. Nevertheless, she did take steps to enhance her security, including purchasing mace and arranging for a locksmith to change her locks. Amie expressed her fear and apprehension, believing that Gareth remained obsessed with her even after 8 years. She genuinely feared for her safety. Unfortunately, her instincts would soon be proven correct. Shortly after their encounter at the event, Gareth managed to obtain Amie's phone number and initiated a flurry of text messages and calls. Amie confided in her friend Sarah Rollins, saying, "Gareth found my number. He keeps texting, and he sounds unstable." Initially, the intensity of Gareth's messages and voicemails escalated rapidly, causing Amie to block his number. A week later, she recorded an episode of the Date Ladies podcast, where off the microphone, she confided in the hosts about her fear of Gareth and her uncertainty about how to protect herself. On January 29, she posted a book recommendation on Facebook for a book titled, "Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered," a title that eerily reflected her state of mind during the last week of her life. A few days later, she called her parents and expressed her wishes for an open casket funeral and an elaborate headstone if she were to die unexpectedly. 2 days before Valentine's Day, Amie sent a text to Drew Carey, asking if he would meet with her after Valentine's Day to talk. Tragically, they would never have that chance. On the morning of Valentine's Day in 2020, Amie enjoyed a sunrise walk with her friend Cleopatra through the winding streets of the Hollywood Hills. They later had breakfast at the Beechwood Cafe, where Amie shared her enthusiasm for the neighborhood's landmarks and history. During their conversation, Amie expressed her contentment and the sense of accomplishment in her life. As the day progressed, Amie eagerly looked forward to their evening plans, which included attending a burlesque show featuring her good friend, Miss Dosh. She met her friends there at 7:30 p.m., and it was noted in a photo that she wore rosary beads with a crucifix, sparking speculation about whether she had a sense of foreboding. Following the burlesque show, Amie and her friends went to the chic Nomad Hotel for tea before she returned home, arriving just before 1 a.m. Here, she exchanged messages with her longtime friend, Koshland, discussing their upcoming trip to the UK and exploring a restaurant link he had sent her. At 1:02 a.m., she messaged a friend from that night, requesting photos of the green couch at the Nomad, before heading up to her third-floor bedroom. Later in the night, her roommate, Michael Herman Jake, was awakened by screams coming from Amie's room upstairs. The sound of glass shattering and bodies falling to the floor left him in a state of panic, as he comprehended that something terrible was happening. Frantically searching for his phone, he heard the ongoing struggle and feared the intruder might have a gun. He shouted from the stairs, demanding the person to leave Amie alone, before fleeing the house. He climbed a metal fence to reach a neighbor's home and eventually found someone on the street who called 911. It was now 1:14 a.m. The distress call reached the dispatch at 1:16 a.m. Upon arrival at the scene, police found Michael in a state of panic and injured from climbing the fence. On entering the residence, they discovered Amie's crumpled body on the ground beneath the third-story balcony. She was clinging to life, struggling to breathe, and unresponsive. Police observed deep bruising around her neck, strongly suggesting that she had been strangled before being thrown from the balcony above. They rushed her to the nearest hospital, but at 3:26 a.m., she was pronounced dead. Homicide detectives immediately initiated their investigation, collecting evidence, interviewing neighbors, and searching for surveillance footage. Inside Amie's bedroom, they discovered evidence of a struggle, from bloodstains on a doorway to a trail of scattered rosary beads leading to the balcony. There, they found a syringe filled with a lethal dose of liquid nicotine. Downstairs, a glass panel from a French door had been shattered, indicating a break-in had occurred. Michael, Amie's roommate, recalled that earlier in the night, around 9 p.m., he had been in his room when he heard what he thought might have been glass breaking. At the time, he assumed it was Amie accidentally breaking a plate or the cat knocking something over. Surveillance footage from the neighborhood revealed a white man dressed in black heading towards Amie's residence. Security cameras outside Amie's house captured the same man tampering with a camera at 8:53 p.m. Later, at 1:11 a.m., the man reappeared in the footage. Investigators deduced that he had broken into Amie's house soon after the initial footage was recorded and lay in wait for her for approximately 4 hours. The attack occurred just after 1:02 a.m., and it was estimated that Amie had fought for her life for about 6 minutes before being thrown over the balcony. The man passed by the camera once again at 1:11 a.m., leaving one burning question. Who was the man captured in the footage? During the investigation, authorities spoke to individuals, including Michael, and asked if they knew anyone who could have committed such a crime. The unanimous response: Gareth Perce House. That same morning, Gareth Perce House messaged a woman he had met a few weeks earlier on Tinder, writing, "Good morning, sunshine." They spent the day together at Gareth's house, during which she noticed that he seemed somewhat sad and distant. She also observed mysterious scratches and bruises on his face. Gareth told her that he had a bicycle accident the day before. Later that day, he posted on Twitter, responding to a comedian who had mentioned receiving 400,000 views on his YouTube special within a week. Gareth quipped, "I've been special since I was 5. No views." In the late afternoon, he and his date attempted to leave his Playa del Rey home in his car, only to find themselves boxed in by unmarked police cars. Gareth was arrested and detained in front of his date, formally charged with murder and burglary. Inside his house, police discovered a syringe identical to the one found at Amie's balcony. At his trial in September 2023, 41-year-old Gareth pleaded not guilty to all charges, including the special circumstance allegation of lying in wait, making him eligible for the death penalty. His defense team argued that he had fallen into a deep depression after seeing Amie at the gala and had come to her house only to talk to her. They claimed the syringe containing nicotine had been brought for the purpose of ending his own life, not hers, but that he accidentally scared her into running and falling off the balcony. However, the jury disagreed, finding Gareth Pursehouse guilty on all charges, including first-degree murder. Gareth's sentencing was on December 6 of that year. As Amie's friend Robert Koshland reflects, there can never be closure in situations like this. Still, he finds solace in the fact that justice was served. For all those who knew and loved Amie, her loss leaves a void that can never be filled.